Hello, we're going to go through the combo note here. We just learned the installment note. We learned the lump sum note. Now this note basically is takes on both elements of both a lump sum and an installment note. And we're going to kind of call this the combo note, and we're going to focus right now on the discounted note. So here's an example. We're issuing a $60,000 note for 3 years, compounding annually with annual interest payments. Now, you remember on the installment note had payments that were equal, kind of like an annuity, just like this one. The major difference, though, on an installment note, you're paying principal and interest payments. On this note, you're paying interest only in those payments. So, what happens is the bank and the person borrowing the money, the company, says we want to issue a $60,000 note. And the bank places at a risk of 8%. So the way we would kind of calculate the payment of interest, we would take principal times rate times time, and we'd basically take that $60,000 and multiply it by 8%, and then since it compounds annually, it'd be 1, we get a grand total of $4,800. So our payment's going to be $4,800 3 times. And then where it takes on a lump sum is that I'm receiving a dollar amount today, and then in the future I'm going to pay back the $60,000. So the $4,800 represents the interest that we're paying based off the face rate of the note. So what I need to do, though, since the market rate now is coming in at 10%, when I go to issue this note, I'm not going to receive the full 60 because the market rate is greater than the face rate. So therefore this note will be issued at a discount. So in order to do this on the calculator, we have to get our variables. So the future value, we're eventually going to be paying off $60,000. The annual payment that we're making for interest is going to be $4,800, which I just calculated and used the face rate. The compounds per year and the payments per year is going to be annual, so that's 1. My N is going to be over 3 years. And then what we're solving for is the present value. Now, here's the big question. What do we use for the interest rate? Since we're trying to figure out the value of this note based on a market rate of 10%, and we already used the face rate to calculate our payment, we're always going to use the market rate here when we solve for the present value. So when we go to our calculator and run that through the numbers, we're going to get a present value of $57,051, or $15, excuse me, and 78 cents. So what this means is we're receiving $57,015.78 today. We're going to make 3 payments of $4,800, and then at the very end, at maturity, we're going to pay $60,000. So basically, the face value of the note becomes $60,000. Now, what we're going to do now is we're going to use this information to fill out our roadmap. So I'm going to kind of set up the roadmap now, and I want you to write this down in your notes. You have a date column, you have the cash interest column, you have the interest expense column, you have the discount amortization column, you have the discount account column, and then you have the carrying value column. Now, just like always, if I were to handwrite this and write this down, obviously I would draw my line here, and then what I like to always do above the carrying value, I always like to put down the face value of the note. In this case, it would be $60,000. So now, on the date we're issuing this note, we're going to use 5/1/16 to be consistent with all of our problems. And so, therefore, the date of issuance, we're basically going to receive that $57,000, and that $57,000 is going to be our carrying value. Now, if we were to go to our T account, and so I'm going to kind of pause here and make a quick T account. remember that we're going to have $60,000 in the no payable account, and then the discount is basically going to be the difference, $60,000 minus the $57,015.78. So the discount account is going to hold a balance of $2,984.22. So this discount on no payable account is a contra liability account. So you can see how we get a carrying value of $57,000. If we take the $60,000, we take out the discount, and the discount in this example would be $2,984.22. You're going to get that carrying value of $57,015.78. So I like to really kind of take this piece here, and I really want to make sure that I highlight it and I say, hey, this is the face value of the note. This is what I have in the discount account, and I'm going to slowly work my way up towards the face rate, the face value, excuse me. So now on 5/1/17, I'm going to make that cash payment interest of $4,800. Now to get the interest expense, I'm basically going to take principal times rate times time. So I'm going to take this carrying value and I'm going to multiply it by my rate, which is 10%. And then I'm going to multiply it by time. And you can see how I get the $5,701.57, and we're just going to round that to 58 cents. So once I get that amount, you have to remember that the difference between the interest expense and the cash interest, that difference is going to give me how much I'm decreasing the discount account by. So there's the entry there, there's the, I'm sorry, not the entry, but there's the update to the discount account. So now this balance is going to hold that minus whatever change I made to the discount account, and I'm going to have a new balance there. And remember, the carrying value is going to be the face value of the note, 60, minus whatever's in the discount account. So now I get $57,917.36. So then I go to the next year. My cash interest is still going to be $4,800. My interest expense is principal times rate times time. So I'm going to take this $57,917 times the rate times the time. I'm going to cheat here though. I know it's going to be $5,719. I'm going to just kind of copy the formula down there, and there you go. There's my number. And then to get the discount amortization, it is the cash interest minus the interest expense. So I'm going to cheat again. I'm going to copy that formula down. There's the 991, and then the same thing with this. So now my new carrying value, it's showing me an error here, so let me just fix that real quick. My new carrying value is going to be that cell minus this cell, and I get my new carrying value of $58,909.09. So now when I go into the last year, I'm going to be off by a penny here probably on rounding, but you'll see what happens here at the end. Once again, I have my interest expense, principal times rate times time. I'm going to have my discount account, and then you can see, oh no, it worked out nice and even. I worked it down to 0, and then you can see that once I take this and I minus 0, I work my carrying value to 60,000. So to make a long story short, I'm making these cash interest payments, but since I issued the note at a discount, remember this discount account holds the interest expense, cumulative interest expense that I'm going to have between the money that I receive and the money that I pay out. I'm slowly going to have an amortization of that interest expense. On top of it though, don't forget I'm making this $4,800 cash payment. That is why my interest expense is higher than the $4,800, because I'm taking it out of this discount account, which remember, this discount is future interest expense that I'm going to be accruing. And so I want to accrue each, just like on the lump sum, I'm accruing that interest even though I'm not paying it. I have to account for it and put it in the year where it belongs. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to work through the journal entries, and I'm going to kind of scroll down here. That way we could kind of use our statement here and make our journal entries. So I'm going to kind of make some space here. All right, so on 5/1/16, I have my initial entry. I'm receiving basically cash in the amount of $57,015.78. And then the discount account is then going to hold the dollar difference at discount, which is $2,984.22. That's the other debit. And then the credit is going to be banknote payable. And that's going to be the $60,000. So that's my initial entry on the note. Now I have to do the adjusting entry on 12/31/16. Now, if you really think about this for a second and you think about the installment, remember we accrued interest on the note on installment, we had interest expense, interest payable. On the lump sum note, accrued interest on the note, we had interest expense, discount on note payable. So since this is a combo note, you're going to have a debit to interest expense, but then you're going to have your credits are going to be the discount account, and then you're also going to have a credit to interest payable. So what is happening here, the interest expense, we have to remember that we're using 8 of the 12 months of this amount, so which comes out to 2/3. So basically what we're going to do then is we're going to take this number and multiply that by 2/3, and we're going to get our interest expense. So I'm going to just do a cheat here. I'm just going to show you. I'm going to take that and I'm going to multiply that by 2/3, and there's my entry. There's the $3,801.05. Now to get the discount, I'm doing the same thing. I'm taking this and I'm multiplying it by 2/3. And I get the 601. And then the interest payable, remember, I'm doing the same thing here. I'm taking 2/3 of the 4,800. So there we go. We have a balanced equation. We have the interest expense debit, 3801.05. There's the discount, and there's the payable. So now the question goes, well, what goes on the financial statement? So be careful here. I'm going to just kind of pull down here. We're going to look at all this to do the financial, but when we go to do the financial statement, we type in balance sheet. Remember on the lump sum, we had no current liability until we got to the year before maturity. Well, here, what's going to happen for the current liability, we only have the interest payable. So there's the interest payable of $3,200. Now, when it comes to the long-term liability, we got a couple things going here. We have the banknote payable, it still holds 60. Okay, so there's our 60. But then we have the discount account. Remember, we're still using this adjusting entry here, or the right here of 601.05, and we're going to take that 601.05. And we're basically going to put it into the discount account, 601.05. And when we look at that and we do the net difference there, we get a value of $2,383.17. So the net carrying value of the note, which all goes in the long-term liability, is the difference between the liability account and the contra. So we get a carrying value of, it didn't round there, it should have rounded, I know my rounding set, let me set it for you real quick. I just got to set that there, then I go to dollars, and there you go, there's, it all works out now. Okay, so $57,616.83 is the carrying value. That is what gets reported on the balance sheet. And don't forget that that interest payable also gets reported on the balance sheet, but don't forget that that goes under current liabilities because that amount is going to be paid at the end of the year. Okay, so it gets paid on, so when we go to do that 5-1 entry, this is kind of how we wrap it all up. On 5-1-17, remember we're doing some damage here, so I could show my journal entries. I'm just gonna kind of write the date over here. You kind of get what I'm doing. You kind of see what I'm doing here. There's the date. Okay, so my debit, I always start kind of here with the credit. Well, the credit I'm going to have here is I'm going to be writing a check for $4,800. All right, and then I'm paying off that payable. I'm just going to abbreviate and call it interest payable. I'm going to pay off that interest payable amount of 32. But then I am taking the other interest expense. So I'm taking this number here, the 5701.58, and I have to remember that I am going to take that cell and I'm taking a third of that. Because remember, 2/3 I put on the prior year, and then the discount account, I'm pulling the other third from here on the discount account. So there's a lot more going on here. I handle the cash, I wipe out the payable, I tackled a third of the interest expense, and then a third of the remaining discount, and that's the entry then on 5/1/2017. So there you have it. There you have kind of the start on that problem. Make sure you look over the example of the book, and if you have any questions, see me. Thank you.